Hi everyone, and thank you all so much for joining the very first Retail Jeweller Live Insights webinar. This is the first in a series of new digital events which we are running with the aim of keeping everyone connected, so I hope you find them useful and insightful. We've got further events coming up over the next few weeks, so please keep checking our website and social media for details on how to register for those. Back to today, and our session today is called Trading Successfully Through the Covid-19 Pandemic, and I'm delighted to be joined by three panelists representing two quite different businesses. I'm sure some of them don't need any introduction to some of you, but just so you know who we've got here. From Clog-Eye, which is obviously a national jewellery brand with 10 of its own stores and a network of over 300 independent jewellers, we have Managing Director Ben Roberts. And then joining me from two-store independent jeweller Banks Lion in the Northwest, we have Director Alex Pecco and personal shopper Ruby Henderson. So while these two businesses are quite different in terms of their size and reach, what they've got in common is the fact that they've both seen positive sales during the recent lockdown, which saw the forced closure of their physical stores. And so I guess I'll probably kick off by asking them sort of when they made the decision to close their stores, and we'll sort of go from there. So I guess, Alex, I'll come to you first.
Yeah, hi everyone. We actually made the decision that we were going to close our physical stores probably two or three days before it was announced by Boris to the nation. We sort of came to the conclusion that we were actually compromising the safety of our team and the general public in remaining open. So we kind of had already, I mean, we almost did it a week before, and then we thought perhaps we were being a bit premature. And then we sort of had a meeting and decided that actually we needed to take action because it was spiraling out of control. And we were noticing there was a nervousness of people, and obviously the health of our customers and our team at the forefront. So we actually started winding up and closing both stores. I think it was Friday the 20th into the weekend and everything else, and then the announcement was made, I think, on the Sunday or the Monday. So kind of preempted that to a degree, which I think was probably luck rather than being good, to be honest. But there we are.
And Ben, what about Clog-Eye's own stores? When did you decide you were going to close those?
Very similar story, actually. I probably eked that out a couple more days. Being a bit of a gannet, I kind of pushed on till the point that someone said through the door when I was actually present at one of the stores, they said, "You're taking the mickey." And I thought, yeah, if they're saying that to me, it's time to close. So actually at that point, I took all the stock back to head office, which I think has been a very important part of what I guess the next few questions will be about. Yeah, so I'm actually on that. What sort of adaptations did you need to make? Because obviously both businesses have got other channels, predominantly websites, but other ways that you sell your products. So what kind of things did you need to do to make that shift to focus your business on the other channels, knowing that the physical stores were going to be closed? Is that for me or Alex? Well, you can start and then we'll go to Alex. The physical adaptations weren't actually that great in the business because we already had a marketing department within. We've got a marketing team of about 10. Unfortunately, when it really kicked in, I furloughed 8 of them, and we are now surviving with a team of 2, obviously. And what I've really loved about what we're doing now is actually the direct contact and the ability to just do something very quickly with no pushback, because I guess everybody was scared to start with. We've just got to do this and do our best to stay commercial. I remember speaking to one lady within the marketing team, and I said, "I need an NHS discount." And she turned around and said to me, "That's not allowed, we're not doing that." And I just thought, that's not up to you. We just need to do this. And it can be abused, it can be totally abused by anybody. It's just an excuse to do 20% off. And with all my other stockists kind of closed, everyone just locked the door and walked home. I've got no one to upset. So as a brand, I don't like to discount, but we did that and it actually really worked for us.
And Alex, what about from your side? Did you sort of already know when you were closing the physical stores that you were going to continue to trade online? And what did you sort of need to do to kind of make that sort of shift your focus to that part of the business?
I was quite lucky with our business, really, in that my father-in-law sort of saw an opportunity online. I think we had our first website, if you can call it that, in 1998. And subsequently, we've always, it's always been at the forefront of our sort of development and part of our strategy that we very much treat our website and our online to a degree. Lucky in that it was just at least we had to furlough some of the team. We had to sort of make a call on who could work effectively from home and maintain sort of any online sales and social media and that sort of thing. But we I suppose we kind of had all the tools there. We just needed to probably sharpen them and use them with agility, given the pandemic.
And I guess a question to you first, and then to Ben. I mean, what sort of results have you seen, and were they surprising to you, given the closure of your stores?
I think it depends. I think success is a word that's been bandied around sort of quite willy-nilly, and I think it depends how you gauge success, really. I mean, we have seen, our online sales have remained robust as they similar to how they have been when we've been under normal conditions. Yes, we've obviously seen some additional sales that have gone through the online channels, but they also they are on the whole local people that would have come through one of our doors. But yeah, I must confess, I was terrified of what the landscape would look like in the short to middle term. I thought the age-old saying that luxury begins where necessity ends. Well, I thought everyone's going to be concerning themselves over necessity, and sort of our products, that we retail, which are luxury and are a treat to people, would perhaps fall by the wayside. And I suppose the surprising part is that hasn't been the case. And if anything, people are sort of sitting at home and feeling, I don't know, perhaps like now is the chance to buy that, whatever it is you might have been thinking about for a little while, almost live for today and spoil yourself. So that's perhaps what I was surprised at, rather than, and all sort of, I suppose it's that British, or that sort of spirit that we have, that it's like, right, well, I'm what can I do? I'm at home. We're gonna I suppose look for a positive, and that's what's been really surprising.
And Ben, from your side, what kind of results have you seen, and has it been a surprise to you?
Well, I'd echo Alex's sentiment there, really. I was genuinely surprised to see jewellery would be classed as a maybe necessity. I really was surprised. So briefly, this business is about 160 people, furloughed 90%, so we're down to about 16 people. With that small team, we've actually achieved as much in terms of sales as we had as a full team. So March we were up 4%. I think April down 2%. This month will probably be about 15%. I think it's pretty good, because actually our business is made up of kind of 3 lots of 30% web, 30% stockist, 30% own store, and a little bit of international. And that 30% web has actually grown to encompass the whole turnover of the business now. That's in 2 months.
I think from sort of echoing what both of you have said, and from when I've been speaking to people, certainly, who do still have websites and have been able to keep trading. I'm obviously not talking about the jewellers who have no online presence and have just sort of shut their doors and that's been that. But in general, jewellery's been performing a lot better than, say, fashion, because you don't have that seasonality aspect of it, because at the moment, if all the clothes shops are still open, they'd be full of all summer clothes and holiday clothes, and people don't know when they're going to go on holiday and that sort of thing. And also, I think people think, oh, I'm at home, I don't have anywhere to go, I don't have anything to dress up for, but they still might want to treat themselves to jewellery. So I think fashion has probably been a lot harder hit than jewellery, and say the beauty industry as well has done quite well in this, with people treating themselves to beauty products online. So it's interesting that opportunities remain there for people to kind of treat themselves to those luxury purchases, which sort of backs up what you've both said. And in terms of letting your customers know that you were still there and still trading, and kind of how did you go about doing that and getting the message out to them?
For me, we've actually kind of started a whole new side of the business that I didn't really even know existed, called secret social, or paid ads. So we're advertising to people who we wouldn't normally appeal to. So we have a database of customers, some 200,000 people, and that would normally be what drives our business to customer relationship, just email marketing. But now what we're doing aggressively is pursuing customers that we never had before. So we're very lucky in the sense that our customer collects our products probably about at an average rate of about 1.8 a year. So once we get them collecting, they're great. They just keep collecting, a little bit like Volvo buyers. They're kind of solid, good, dependable customers, but we need more. So what we've been doing is going out and getting a bit more savvy on social media, a bit more savvy on Google ads, everything you can think of really. We're just kind of opening up the budgets and experimenting with everything. And I think last weekend we had 75% new customers on nearly 3,000 orders, which I thought was pretty amazing.
And Alex, obviously, and Ruby, I know this has been something that you've been quite involved in as well, and on a sort of independent, on a more local level, you've obviously had to step up kind of marketing through various channels, and I know that social media has been quite a big part of that. So I don't know if you want to kind of talk me through what your strategy was there.
Well, I think we'll let Ruby take that one. I'll step out.
We've, to be honest, since before I even joined the business, there was a really quite an organic following that we have on Facebook and Instagram, but it is very much something that we've had and we've kept, which has been great, but we maybe haven't quite honed in on as much as we could have done. And so what this has given us a chance to do is really focus on the audiences that we have across separate channels, and then tailor what we can then put out across different ones. So we know what works on Instagram because we're really connecting with people, particularly through stories. People can see that we're real human beings and we're all going through the same thing as everyone else is at home. We're not all, I mean, I'm certainly no sort of multimillionaire that it has access to everything that certain lucky people do, and that has helped with sales as well, because people do connect with that. People will then, we've had quite a few people they've approached us and they've maybe gone, this is not something that I'm used to doing, I'm not, this is a massive purchase for me, and they really, really appreciate that we approach that in a bit more of a tender way than they're maybe used to seeing with luxury jewelers. Facebook's been massively different as well, because there's a lot of our followers on Facebook are actually they are quite local to us, so they've appreciated seeing little bits of heritage from the Banks Lion family and things like that. So it's been really interesting to try and strike a good balance between product and between us as a brand, because as a brand we are a family, and that really has been the most important thing to get across, I think.
Yeah, and I think you touched on it a bit there. It's kind of about finding the balance between being sort of letting people know that you've got the product to sell, but also not overtly pushing products on people when perhaps it is a difficult time for people, and sort of buy isn't necessarily what people want to see, and it's kind of making the more social side of social media.
Yeah, definitely, and it's tapping into people's motivations a bit more as well. So you really get to know, you are building relationships first and then getting the customers from that, and that is, I'm sure Ben will agree, that's the most important foundation to get a good client base from.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you mentioned an important word before, family, and it's kind of, I've got a weird pronouncing brand. I mean, half the people in the world don't know how to pronounce it. And when you actually learn how to pronounce it, you feel part of the gang, and that's kind of evident with a lot of our customers who are very proud to say the name right, and they kind of feel very much one-on-one with the business, and to the point where they write back to Ben because they think they've had an actual letter because it's got my signature on the bottom printed, obviously, they actually write back and say, "Dear Ben." And I get the loveliest letters ever. Honestly, it's actually quite touching. A lot of them are quite old, you can tell, because you can tell by the handwriting, but they genuinely think they're part of the Clogeye family, and I think that's really cool.
Yeah, definitely.
And are there any particular campaigns that you've run? This is to both of you, so I guess Ruby first and then Ben. Are there any particular campaigns that you've run on through social, or anything that you've done specifically that's got better engagement, or has got really good engagement with people, or has delivered really good sales?
Yeah, we, right at the beginning of lockdown, actually, we decided straight away, I mean, we knew that we'd have to jump into social media because we knew that everyone would just be sitting at home on the phones. And we decided to go ahead with we called it our Ask at Home campaign, and it was the best ways that we could think of to get engaged at home. So we obviously, it has been the perfect opportunity for people to celebrate how much they love each other, whether they're living together or whether they're not. And we also, I mean, apart from anything, we obviously knew that we had certain sales coming along in the pipeline, that people's plans were maybe going to be scuppered, and it was a nice way of being able to interact with any followers or any new customers that approached in a way that was relatable to them. And it was also an excuse for me to get my dog across the internet. So yeah, so it was really, really great. And we did offer 15% off any, we are quite competitively priced on our engagement rings. We know that. But then for us to take off an extra 15% is not something that we'd normally do at all. So that really just softened it for people and gave them more of an opportunity to seize it, really. But it was great, worked really, really well.
And Ben, I guess the same question to you in terms of specific campaigns that have worked well.
We've probably gone a bit wild on campaigns because we've got no one to upset while everybody's locked up and gone home. But I don't mean to sound too hawkish when I say this, but kind of as soon as it happened, I thought, right, okay, we've got to do something. We've got to survive here. And I was genuinely worried. I remember coming into work the first day, honestly, probably a little bit hungover and a little bit in shock, and just going, Christ, what have I got to do? How am I going to make this work? And from that point on, we just went, okay, we know people are going to be on their phone at home, and our mobile rate, actually, our usage on mobile rate went from 60% to about 79% in a week. And that was not just purchases, that was just browsing as well, which is really unusually high for us. So we knew we had to do something, particularly on social. So we had a new social campaign. We did something for the NHS. I also straight away went, right, okay, no one's advertising. I think I saw Britain's Got Talent or something terrible. But I thought, wow, no one's advertising at the moment. I wonder what's happening with advertising rates. And I found out that TV advertising was down by about 60%. So I booked 2 weeks of TV ad, quickly got my agency to make an advert in about 2.5 weeks. And the cost of making that advert was almost nothing. And we got a lovely TV ad on at the same time as a postal mailing was dropping to approximately 70 or 80,000 of our customers. So we had post, we had TV, we had social, and we had these paid ads that I mentioned before, secret social. So it was all happening at the same time. And I was just looking at the impressions on the website, and we've never had it so high at all. I mean, if I'm normally looking at the website impressions at any given moment, it's somewhere between 200 and 300. And I think last Friday I saw we had nearly 4,000 on there. So it's just amazing. But it's cool. It's like an opportunity to try new things, because I would never have got away with that before. Speaking honestly, it's just like a changing shape of the business. And we have we have tried everything, literally everything, to sort of survive. And I'm proud to say this team have really jumped up and really stood up rather, and done so well. It's been cool.
And that advert is really good as well. It's really really honest. It's really nice. I think it's perfect, really.
Yeah, I like the guy's voice. It reminds me of, remember Brains Breweries, the old Welsh beer? Yeah, he probably drinks that all day.
And were you, I should also say at this point, because I haven't done yet, there is an opportunity for anybody that's listening, if they want to submit questions to the panel, you can type those and we will take questions at the end. So feel free to submit any questions that you have. And I was just going to actually ask about kind of whether or not you were sort of surprised by kind of the reaction and how much sort of interaction you were getting from customers through social media and things like that, and whether it actually surprised you.
For me, yeah, it did surprise me. We got a lot of very, very kind comments, a lot of very angry and ununderstanding comments at the same time. I think customers, there was a certain divide really. Some customers were in shock, and then some customers were saying, why aren't you getting back to me? I sent you a message on your social media platform, whatever, 9 hours ago, and you still haven't got back to me. I'm like, hold on, I've got 3 people in customer services. 9 hours isn't bad right now. So you've got those guys, and then you've got the guys who totally understand, and they're totally lovely. So yeah, you got 2 kinds of different customer, I guess, but in the main, I think 80% of our customers, no problem at all fine. But then the problem is that with customer services, when you reply, they reply back, and it just mounts up and up and up, and we got all these replies coming off all these different sort of promotions we've got going on. We just struggled to keep up for a bit, and I must admit our FIFO probably suffered a little bit there.
And what about you, Ruby? Was it a surprise?
Yeah, it was. I mean, the amount of feedback that we had to there's 2 of us at the moment running our personal shopper, and the amount of feedback and of inquiries that we received to that, I mean, we've been logging on in the mornings and it's just been absolutely mental. But we are, between us, you know, a few sort of sleepless nights and early mornings, but it's, we've been really, really good actually at getting back to people, I would say. But I would say all of our customers, maybe only had 1 or 2 who haven't been so understanding, but everybody is fantastic on lead times, on maybe having to wait that little bit longer to hear back from somebody because whoever we're having to speak to is maybe still closed or is working on short staff. But yeah, I mean, customer response to us has been really, really quite friendly. But I also think that taps into us not playing the card, but being a small business and you know, advising them that we are all family. There's a small number of us working, and we are all doing our very best to make sure that you get the best service and everything that you would have got if we were still up and running as usual. So yeah, on the whole, they've been really, really well responsive, I think.
And do you think, and I guess this might be a question for Alex and for Ben, have buying patterns changed over the last sort of 10 weeks? Have you seen people starting to buy more expensive items, more, I don't know, in the case of Bank's line, have you sold more watches than jewellery or vice versa? And I just wondered if it kind of differs to what you normally see.
I mean, the statistics are slightly skewed when I sort of look at what we have been selling, purely because without the stores being open, we aren't doing, you know, the repair side of our business or some of those little things that would sort of bring an average transaction value down. But on the whole, our sort of average sale price has risen slightly. I think you touched on it earlier, Ruth, actually, and I think it was very, very true and very poignant that, you know, people, I had a lady yesterday that I went to see, socially distanced, of course, and it's her 50th birthday, and she was meant to be going to New York last week and going off somewhere else next week and everything else, and obviously that's all not happening. So as a result, she's buying herself a rather nice watch as a way to sort of mark that birthday. And that's definitely, in spite of the fact there are customers that are within sort of 6 miles of one of our stores, they've been customers previously. For this milestone birthday, they weren't looking to make that purchase with us, but because there was no alternative, they decided, you know, we are here, we had a product that they loved, and therefore that they've made that spend with us. So I think we are picking up you know, high ticket items from that point of view. In terms of our sort of split watches to jewellery, it's remained pretty similar. I'd say that having the girls at home offering the personal shopping service perhaps has meant that our actual transactional, items per transaction has perhaps trickled up, because Ruby seems very good at, persuading a chap that if he's buying himself a watch, that a nice piece of jewellery for his wife wouldn't go amiss, and that sort of thing. But yeah, I mean, yes, it has changed, but ever so slightly, and I just think we're picking up a little bit more than we perhaps ordinarily would. That would be my sort of my understanding of it. And I'd like to sort of echo Ben's sentiments earlier as well, and just, everything that we've achieved is down to the team. They've been absolutely fantastic. I mean, we've been asking huge amounts of them, and they've all stepped up to that challenge. So, thank you to everyone. And we're only still here, not tearing.
Yeah, and Ben, the same question to you.
It was really, from the very beginning, it was about survival. And just going off on another tangent for a moment, I said we kind of 30% overall web to then 100, maybe 104% of the whole business now. That change is huge, especially with the guys that you're asking of. Like Alex said, everyone kind of stood up or stepped up, and it's amazing with the shorter communication channels how much more efficient you become. So we're quite flat anyway, but flat with less people actually made quite a difference in terms of how we all communicate, and that's great for motivation. It's great for everybody's enthusiasm. It also makes you feel like you're actually working a lot harder and a lot more with a sense of urgency. And I think that was really important for motivation here as well. Got one girl out there doing 3 emails a week to 200,000 people. She's never done that before, and she just kind of stepped up. And I don't know, in terms of average transaction value, we probably over-marketed ourselves just to survive. So the ATV was dropping, but then there's all sorts of promotions you can put in place for minimum spend to push that back up. So everything's got kind of levers and pulleys in a way to push that up. And I don't mean to sound too mass manufactured, because we're not. We kind of pride ourselves on craftsmanship more than anything. But if you're not careful, you can become kind of a commodity product, and if you're trying to chuck it out the door too quickly, it becomes far less special. And I could actually see the ATV dropping from somewhere like £230 to below 200, which is really rare for us. We've never been that low on kind of a weekly basis. But like I said, there's levers and pulleys. You can put something in place to push that back up, and that really works nicely for us, especially on web. Everything's so adaptable, isn't it? I think over the weekend, I mentioned how many orders we had. We had 384 over £300. I think that's fantastic, isn't it? I mean, that brought us right back to where we wanted to be, despite having a kind of sale at the same time.
And I've an interesting question for both of you actually. A recent survey that we did via the Retail Jeweler website asked retailers, if you're a retailer and you do not currently have a transactional online business, will you now look to invest in one in light of the pandemic? And actually, I was quite surprised, because only 27% of people said yes, 20% said a flat out no, and 53% said they were not sure, which I was quite surprised by. Perhaps they're not sure because they're not sure how to do it. I just wanted to ask the panel kind of what you make of that statistic and what your advice would be to those people.
I think this is your turn, Alex.
Look, I can't comment on anyone's personal choices. I can only sort of reflect on what we've learned, and it's always been, as I said, a sort of key pillar of our business. That so if that's a decision you've made, that's absolutely fine. From my point of view, I couldn't be without our ecom team and our ecom website. And if it were to, if we weren't to have had it, I'd be sort of chasing my tail massively now, trying to get it up and running as quickly as physically possible. So I can't influence anyone necessarily. That's a decision. But if it was up to me right now, and I didn't have what I have in place, I'd be desperate for it. That's for sure. Having seen what what others are doing.
Yeah.
So is my video okay? I'm getting some understanding that it's lagging slightly, or is everyone?
It's okay.
Yeah, it seems okay at the moment. Same question to you, Ben.
Are you going to pick on me about this with a smirk? Personally, I think it's a bit laughable not to have a website, whether it's functional in terms of transactions or not. But I get some people don't want to do that. They just want to support their bricks and mortar. If we'd have relied on just that, then we'd have had no turnover for 3 months now. So it's as simple as that for me. I couldn't have survived this, maybe even in terms of cash flow for the 3 months. If I didn't have a website, I'd be a bit buggered right now. Genuinely, it's just, it's strange that people don't think about that. I mean, we actually do an out-of-the-box solution for customers, for stockists rather, where we call it an RWP. It's a retail web platform. It's like me giving you a CD, if you like, or a DVD, and saying, there you go, put that on your website, and it's literally an out-of-the-box solution, and it's our website sitting on your website. The only thing is the checkout goes to me, and I distribute I distribute on your behalf, and you get the margin, the full margin. And we've had a surprising amount of people come to us and say, oh, do you remember we talked about that RWP? I'm ready to do it now. So they can lock their shop up. They can actually go home and sunbathe or whatever. And we are delivering product on behalf of customers at the moment, and they are getting full margin. But it just amazed me that certain people weren't doing that before.
That actually just relates to a question that we've just had come in on the Q&A that says, it's to Alex and Ruby, saying, as a retailer with a strong online presence, are you still open to new suppliers moving forward? And if you had an order for an out of stock item, would the supplier being able to drop ship direct to the customer help you or not?
We've had a lot of what we call a special order, and on the whole the suppliers have been absolutely brilliant, but nobody seems to be too fussed about everything having to come through us first, because we've got Alex and Charlotte at the office being pretty seamless. I mean, I'm sure that behind the scenes they're running around like headless chickens, but it's everything has been, from delivery to us, everything's turned around within 24, 48 hours. So they've been absolutely brilliant. But yeah, we have still been able to order new products. That's not been an issue at all. People have been supplying. It's just whether obviously at the beginning we had to decide whether that was something that we were going to do, because we were going to have to pay for it when it arrived. Because of the amount of business that we've continued to do, it has been absolutely fine, and we've had no issues with it.
I think that collaboration at the moment is key, and if, for instance, the solution that Ben just suggested there, that's what I think they call a no-brainer, and we've found, if there's something that we can just bolt onto our website and it's any solution, and I don't see why you wouldn't do it. So we've also found that with our suppliers that are willing to ship directly, that we have found that really useful. I mean, we've had it was quite early on actually, I think, and also Holden, from my point of view, been very good about communicating lots of things to us, saying that X and Y supplier are there, they're in their warehouse, and they can have the full product, and they will send it straight to an end user for you, and you'll get the invoice. That suits me down to the ground, because it cuts out a step. And at the moment, I think that's really key. What Ben was talking about earlier, sort of flattening curves and everything else. You can cut out any steps in a chain right now. It just makes it far more straightforward. So yes, whoever asked that question, I think it was an anonymous user. Yes, that would be very helpful, and of course we're always open to new suppliers.
Changing tack a little bit, I just wanted to ask to Ben. Clogeye made the decision to fundraise for the NHS via a number of different initiatives. Can you talk us through kind of what you did, how successful they've been, and also I sort of want to say why. It's sort of obvious as to why, but kind of what was your thinking behind it from a business perspective as well?
Well, like most good ideas, they're usually nicked from someone else with me. Speaking honestly, I follow a website called Jade Holland Cooper. She's married to the Superdry guy, and she was raising money for the NHS charities, and I looked into it a bit further, and I wondered what it was. How can you donate straight to the NHS? Because as far as I was concerned, everybody was out there clapping at their doorsteps on a Thursday night, and I thought, right, okay, kind of need to use this to engage. So I rang them, and they said, yeah, sure, you're not really meant to use our logo, but here's our bank account details if you want to put anything in. It's like, okay, fine. So I know really I'm not meant to be using the NHS as a sales point, but speaking honestly, I am. So we decided to take it a step further in terms of involvement. So if you go through our website and you want to buy something for square £100, just round numbers, we always give free postage, but we say at the end, look, you were going to be asked to donate, to give us £3.50 for postage. Would you care to donate that to the NHS? And about 3 out of 10 do that. And that has probably raised about 25 grand in the last 8 weeks. 25 grand in 8 weeks, just donated by people going, do you know what, I know I'm getting free postage, but I'm happy to submit sort of to £3. Got that idea from, you know, when you check out of hotels and they sneak another little bill on the bottom and they go, this is going to Great Ormond Street or something like that, if you don't cross it, which you always feel terrible for not doing. So we just leave that check in there, and if they go through with it, it's fine. So that raised a lot of money. So then we got checkout, then we got, we did a raffle, so you can win £1,000 worth of clog eye jewellery, which, you know, doesn't cost me £1,000, but in the customer's eye, it's a very valuable prize. That raised about £6,000 or £7,000. And then of course we got the pin badges, which is probably the winner of all time. On the pin badges, we've actually raised 125 grand as of yesterday on that. And this is just, I won't go into cost, but it's a £10 product, and we donate all profits to the charity. So all of the costs we pay back, but all the profits go, and it's a pretty profitable product. So it's done amazingly. It surprised me. I think it's almost on that verge, you know, that term going viral. It surprised me. All the celebrities are talking about it on Instagram, and it's just got cool because everybody wants to back the NHS at the moment, don't they? And then that just drives traffic back to my site. And speaking selfishly, that's kind of a good thing.
And from a Banks Lion perspective, obviously sort of fundraising on that kind of large scale for an independent is a little bit more difficult. But do you feel that, I mean, one thing that I've kind of been reading about that is going to come out of this pandemic when we come out the other side is that there's been a real trend towards people wanting to support local businesses, be that kind of their local butcher or greengrocer who's been open and trading throughout, and they feel that, you know, that they've supported them during this time, so people will want to continue to support them afterwards. But do you think that will extend towards sort of independent jewelers as well? And have you seen kind of that trend towards localism through the interaction that you've been getting with your customers?
I have, definitely, one-to-one. There's a lot, I mean, obviously, the country over, if anybody's looking for a watch, they can find it online, they can find it from anybody. But now people will come to us and say, we want to come to you because I grew up in Lancaster, or somebody went to school in Clitheroe, which is about half an hour's drive from us. And people like Morecambe, and they go and they say we want to shop small, we want to support local, but I mean, what has helped us with that is there's been a lot of other things across social media that have been all to do with shopping local and shopping small business, which we've latched onto naturally, but a lot of other people have done that work for us, so thanks very much. But there's been a lot of people who are a bit more keen to support local. I would definitely agree with that. And it is, again, like Ben was saying, there's certain things that you probably shouldn't use as sales tools, but it does kind of play into your hands quite nicely if you turn that up a little notch.
Yeah.
And on that point, we've just had a question come in for Ben, which says, are you concerned that you don't have permission to officially use the NHS branding, and what could be the consequences? Really great that you've raised so much money, but just wondering if there are any repercussions.
I'm not going to name names, but the guy I spoke to said, you're speaking to the only people who can come after you. You're not meant to use it, but what are we going to do if you pay us?
So that's a no then.
And also, if you turn it upside down, it says SHN anyway.
And this is quite an interesting question that has actually come in twice in slightly different form. But do you envisage your in-store experience changing as a result of this? will there continue to be a heavier reliance on online and social media in the long term as well as in the short term? And how are you concerned that that might take people away from your physical stores? So how will you try to bring your customers back into your stores once you reopen?
That's a really good question. Something I'm racking my mind with a bit at the moment. I was in the store yesterday, just kind of measuring up for all PPE, and that's going in today. And I do wonder how busy that store is going to be, because my demographic in terms of age is quite high, and they're naturally the kind of customers who would probably be more wary of shopping. So sort of 60, 70-year-olds that are naturally not going to come anywhere near the shop at the moment, despite all the measures that you take. I had hoped for a kind of German-style peak as soon as you open, and then anticipate a drop-off, but I don't think us Brits are going to get that, despite being really generous on furlough. I think we're all going to be a bit nervous about running out and instantly spending all of our furlough money, because we've not had anywhere else to spend it. But yeah, I am a bit nervous about how busy the shops are going to be. But going back to the social media thing, we kind of changed a lot that we've been doing on social media for the last 6 months. I kind of argued with my marketing department about 6 months ago and said, look, I want more concentration on Instagram, because I know, and you know, that everybody's hopping from Facebook to Instagram. And they said, no, our customer is Facebook only. And I said, well, they're moving over. They said, well, it's not our age demographic. And I said, well, if we can get our customers to collect younger, then they'll collect for longer. And that's been a bit of a big sway for the business in terms of trying to be a bit more cool, a bit more with it. I should probably say youthful. Everybody wants to be youthful, right? So we're appealing to our older customers, trying to make them buy into more youthful jewellery, and also the younger customer into that more youthful jewellery. Maybe those sort of expandable bohemian bracelets, they're selling particularly well for us at the moment, and that's got to be to a more youthful market, right?
And I guess the same question to you as well, Alex and Ruby. Are you sort of worried about kind of, or how will you be trying to attract people back into store once you reopen?
I mean, I share similar fears to Ben, in that the environment which we created prior to this pandemic, or that we hoped we created in retail through, was a luxurious one. We offered an experience, it was about getting people into the store, and dwell time was really important, getting people sat down and, possibly having a couple of drinks, and basically all the things we're now not allowed to do under the new rule. So I think, my store now, I've got my screens in place. I've moved desks around so that we can socially distance, and I just don't know how that is going to translate into luxury sales. And so that's a big fear for me at the moment, and a big question mark. And yes, we can look at data from Germany, as you said, and we can look at data from China, and there's that incredible statistic about the Hermes store opening on the first day in China and taking $14 million or whatever it is. But I don't think that's going to be reflected necessarily on our high streets, and we're not going to see that in our stores. So I think in the short term, it certainly is going to change how we do business, and there's going to be more emphasis on, hip Instagram and the such like. And I think, in the medium term, I think when things are relaxed a bit more, and I don't think we're looking at doing anything until probably 2021. But I think, bricks and mortar stores are still going to have a place. I believe in the high street. I'm a firm believer in the high street, and I think it needs to stay. There are going to have to be some measures that are taken at sort of government level on how, business rates are going to have to change and various other things to see shopping centres remain and everything else. But yes, in the short term, it's going to change a lot. I think we're going to continue our personal shopping service in much the same way as we have, and with a view to sort of phasing back our store PPE and things to providing a luxury environment again, as and when we can, and as and when people are comfortable to come. Because quite frankly, we can fling open our doors on the 15th of June, but if customers don't feel comfortable coming into that environment, then we're better off with them closed, to be quite honest. So. Yeah, I think
that sort of, in the same way as there are certain retailers who would prefer to just stick with their bricks and mortar, there are customers who would prefer to do that as well. And they are the people who've been in touch, who have, they can send an email, they can pick up the phone, but they do not want to buy online, and they will still come into the shop. And the best thing that we can do is exactly what Alex has done with the shop. I mean, it looks totally different, but you just have to, if you have a good team, and we do, then we just have to adapt, and you'll just have to take it as it comes, I suppose.
Yeah, and I think linking to that point, it's actually not all bad news for well, certainly for multi-channel retailers, so those who have an online presence as well as a store, because there was recent figures from IMRG who tracked sort of online sales, and they found that those with a website as well as a store actually outstripping the online only retailers. So the multi-channel businesses, so those with a store and an online presence, had sales up 35.8% in April, compared with online only stores, they were only up by 8.3%. So it shows that the complementary nature of having both. So as Alex said, I don't think that the high street is going to go away. I think that people will just, maybe some people will adapt their shopping behaviours, but I think you still need both channels. And I've got a few more questions have come in from the audience as well. So there's one for you, Ruby. Social media usage is up, as well as engagement and perhaps browsing time. Have you been able to do any analysis yet of conversion to sales rates? And Ben can answer this as well. It'd be interesting to know which channels are leading to the most conversions, and where it could be, as that might help to inform your future marketing decisions.
Thanks, Ben. I'm sure that it will. I am not the person who has the percentages. We have a different wizard who does that. But our campaign ran really well, because we don't normally have anything like the Ask at Home campaign that we did. We don't, as I said before, we don't normally discount on anything. So that engaged people enough to get in touch. What was the rest of the question? Sorry, Ruth.
So do you happen to know which channels, which social media channels led to sales, whether it was sort of Instagram, Facebook, and will you be looking to put more marketing energies into those channels in future?
Yeah, definitely. It's really helped us to focus on what does well from each channel. And we know that our Instagram has always attracted quite a large watch following. So we have to try and we need to gain more followers from it. I know that we need more of a wider female audience with it. And so if we dabble something else in there, that's where we seem to grow in these organic followers. But watches always do very well from there. Any new limited edition that has come through, we've managed to sell through almost immediately, or special editions, and that is usually from Instagram, or from email marketing, which we're really strong on. We always have been, to be honest, but that goes out once a week. And then YouTube as well. So in terms of product, YouTube videos, as much as they've been very terrifying to do, they've gained a massive following, and we could really do more of those, because we seem to attract quite a few sales.
What kind of thing do you put on YouTube?
It's on Banksline. You can subscribe to it if you like, Ben.
Okay.
We try and link them from our IGTV on Instagram. But what we've always had, we've got loads of subscribers to Bob's blogs, which were our sort of famous videos from Bob Breeden, who has now retired. So I'm trying to follow on the trend. So again, it's mainly watches, but I'm trying to introduce a little bit of jewellery. So we've done, the next thing to come out is going to be to do with our Diamond Buyer's Guide, which has been released by our web wizard, Dan. What else have we done? We've looked at, so we used Instagram engagement with the stories to find out exactly what it was that people wanted to look at. And then we basically tailored it down to a few different diamond rings or some fancy cuts, and then did a video from there as well. So that worked really well and got the engagement, because we knew from asking the questions that it was what people wanted to see. And then naturally, new products is what people want to know about. And if we can be one of the first people to get anything on YouTube, then brilliant.
I guess that social media question to you as well, Ben, in terms of the channels that have worked best, do you have the kind of stats that have shown which have converted the best for you?
Definitely Facebook at the moment. Again, we're going kind of natural, organic, and then advertising on Facebook as well. And we've opened up the floodgates in terms of budgets, and we've actually been brave, and it's actually reaped rewards, which I'm really pleased to say, because normally I would give it a budget of, I don't know, whatever a day. And I just said, okay, no budgets now, let's just see what it does without a budget over the weekend. Was a little bit worried, but actually by the Monday you come in and the great results, everyone's going super happy. And I'm pleased to say that we're going to be doing a lot more of that. I really want to push more on Instagram, but it's not converting quite as well for us. But overall, we're converting at 8.7%, which is up from something like 1.2. 8.7% conversion rate, I think, is pretty neat.
Yeah, and Ruby, somebody has actually asked if you could talk a little bit more about the content created for the Ask at Home campaign.
Well, I mean, it was just an excuse for me to make a bit of mess with some paint, and and just it was really just focusing on actually the most special stories that I've heard from selling to people. You know, everybody loves an engagement story, and we hear them all the time. And the most special ones are the ones that have actually been done in your own home, in that space where you're growing together and that you know so well. And so I thought, if there are loads of different ways that people might not have thought of before, you know, everybody can do a romantic meal, but if there's something else that we can focus in on, and that I can get a bit creative and push out on Instagram, then that was great. So I sat down one day and I just wrote down a load of different ways that we might be able to get engaged during lockdown. And it just, I've got a bit of an active mind, so it just kind of stemmed from there. But yeah, there was loads of different ways. So there was, I mean, we did I set up a nice champagne breakfast. So that was me set up for the rest of the day. And then we did a bit DIY. So painted on the wall, "Will you marry me?" Alex had very kindly and very safely delivered some rings as well, so that we could get the actual content across. But just creating a nice sort of, it was like a nice atmosphere for people to respond to.
There was one delivered by your dog as well, wasn't there?
There was, yeah. She doesn't have it right now. She doesn't have it right now. But yeah, Yoko looks very tired at the moment, but she looks great with a little ring box strapped to her back as well. So, which is a nice idea. Obviously, everybody wants a ring from their best friend, don't they?
And just coming on to another question relating to obviously online sales. What was, to both Ben and to Alex, your policy for kind of extended exchange and refund times, cleaning of the products, and all those kind of things that we've now got to be, well, we've had to be aware of given the sort of lockdown restrictions?
So we took a sort of the view that without the stores being open, it was kind of an unwritten rule really that our refund times were extended, and they weren't, there was a fluidity to them that perhaps wasn't there previously. So everything was on a case by case basis. As it happens, we haven't really had very much back, but we had. We would have followed the government guidelines or anything that we have had back, that it's been, it would have been quarantine the product away for 72 hours until, such case that one of us could safely handle it and then clean it effectively with wipes and UV, which we've invested in also. Yeah, it was something that we spoke about, we thought about, we had the procedures in place, but thankfully we haven't really actually had to take very much back, so that's great.
And the same question to you, Ben.
Actually, very much similar. We haven't had a great deal back. Percentage-wise, it's lower than the usual proportion, but Yeah, we haven't had a great deal back on, you know, this new 72 hours. It's laughable, really, because I think my jewellery comes from the Far East to Scotland for assay in less time than that. So I don't know. It's debatable whether that 72 hours actually means anything and how it can mean anything. You know, everybody touching the same door handles, everybody touching anything you like around a store. But if it's got to be done, it's got to be done. We were actually ultrasonicing all our jewellery anyway, just because we thought it might be a factor. So we would ultrasonic anything that we touched or had come in from the Far East before it was dispatched. But yeah, it's funny, isn't it? All these new measures. I mean, I'd never thought we'd have to think about absolutely everything. Like, I was trying to wayfind around our store yesterday. There's no way you can do it. You just got to do the best you can. I think as long as you seem to do the best you can, you should be okay. But literally, I don't think there's a way of staying 2 meters from anybody in a particularly moderate-sized store. I mean, our counter's halfway across the shop floor, and you've got to go past the counter on one side of the shop, and there's no way another person could be anywhere near you if you were doing that. And I just think it's undoable to a large extent, and people have to appreciate that you just only can do your best.
And I'm just going to come on to the last couple of questions. Siobhan's put a nice easy one in here for you. To trade successfully, what is the first step the panel would suggest to a family-run high street jeweller at the moment? Would it, when we reopen, would it be to think of a sort of local social media campaign, look at launching a website if they don't have one? How would they approach it? What advice would you give?
For me, it would just be enthusiasm. I said this to someone the other day because passion and enthusiasm in what you're doing can be seen more visibly than a website that maybe isn't more transactional. Anybody can make a website, whether it's transactional or not. But I think when you visit a store and you get really good service because those people really want to impress you or really want, or maybe even really enjoy what they do, I think that comes through in spades when you actually really meet somebody who's getting on and loving what they're doing. Websites and all the rest can probably go out the window. It's about people. I'd
echo that as well, and I think I would assume, I don't know what the case is for everybody, but when retailers are opening back up on the high street, you're probably not still going to have a full team straight away. And if you can actually just really focus on your team, they will have that enthusiasm, they will have that honesty, which is what people are looking for, I think, at the moment.
And for me, I think the key word here is communication. And I think that doesn't necessarily, it's, you know, with your team that are furloughed, with your team that you're working with your customer base, with everyone. It's just that I think there's been, you know, we kind of hang on to every word that you hear in the newspaper, or we're waiting for these statistics, this R rate, all these sorts of things. I just think for anyone right now, it's about communication. It's a case of, yes, we're back here, we are open. You know, we've done what we need, the best we can do, whatever that looks like. You know, and we have a website, we have a live chat thing, we're here on WhatsApp, whatever it is. I think it's just about communication and with your customers as well, communicating back to you saying, look, actually I am at home, I am shielding, I can't come and see you, would you mind safely delivering something? Or, you know, I think that's key. That would be the piece of advice. And you know, same goes for even in the industry, suppliers, retailers, you know, CMJ members, Holden members, whatever it is. I think communication is just key everywhere. And that's going to be sort of the really, I mean, it's amazing actually, even this sort of thing, you know, over the last 8 weeks or whatever it's been, I've spoken to some, you know, my suppliers via video calls more than I would have seen them ordinarily. And I think that shapes the sort of the future of what, you know, our business would look like and how we do business. You know, I've placed orders for novelty products that would have been presented at Basel or at SIHH equivalent. I've done that via Zoom. You know, things like that. If we can do that ourselves, we can do that with our customers, and you know, I just think it all boils down to communication, albeit face to face, from 2 meters away on the phone or whatever else.
And just coming on to the final 2 questions, looking to the future, obviously some small retail outlets will likely have difficulty in accommodating more than 2 customers at once when adhering to social distancing. If this means customers may need to queue outside your store, do you see this as a deterrent to business?
I don't think it needs to be necessarily. I think depending on who you are, you can jazz it up a little bit. I mean, I'm sure Alex won't mind me saying that we've just placed a nice order for some branded umbrellas for people to stand outside with, because we are the Northwest and we're only ever going to be the Northwest. So so we have to adhere to that. And yeah, and you can, life is still going to go on and people are still going to want to come to the shop. And I mean, we've got a lovely shop and it would be such a shame if we just cast that to one side. So we just need to enhance it from every angle. So yeah, I think that people will just learn to go with it, to go with the flow and see what happens. And I think as long as everybody's kept updated and kept sort of at the same level as well, there's going to be some smiles, definitely.
Yeah, it becomes the normal. And Ben,
Yeah.
do you think the same? Do you think it won't be a deterrent?
Of course, it will be naturally to certain age groups, but yeah, I don't know quite how realistic it is to maintain this 2-meter rule going forward in time. So I've got a little vinyl sticker on the window ready to go up, and it's got like 5 rules. One of them says a maximum of, and then a blank in this store, because I think that number is going to change over time. So we'll fill that in as we go, and as people kind of find where the normal is, we'll also all adjust together. You see, we've kind of been working in this office now all together as a small team for nearly 9 weeks, and when a new person comes back in off furlough, they act very, very different. You forget they've not seen anyone for 9 weeks, and we're kind of used to being around people, whereas they have actually been isolating. And even that drive to work, which I now think is busy, is not busy for them, and they have not seen the roads this quiet for a long time. And that's them adjusting to my normal in a way. And I've seen that every day. I've actually driven to work for 15 minutes and not seen a single car some days. And I think that's pretty amazing now. I think the roads are something like 20% less busy than they were before. So we're nowhere near like quiet times anymore. But I still think it's strange when these guys are coming into work and they're standing as far as they can away from me. I'm used to that, but no, they kind of they stand a good distance, and you kind of, other people who have been working together now are kind of just okay with normal, but slightly more space, but almost the normal behaviour again. So if that's us adjusting, then I think customers will adjust as well.
And then one final question to everybody. What positives have you taken out of this period of lockdown, or what have you been surprised by?
I think I've made a lot of friends. Made a lot of friends with some really, really nice customers who are now going to be returning. I think that we seem to have secured a really quite a high number of new customers who will come back for the service that they've had, which is very touching, because there's been a lot of effort that's gone in from all of us lot. And yeah, and things that sales are much more personal now. So regardless of whether they're a video call or a WhatsApp message or an email, it has become a much more personal process. Speaking about online sales, there are very few people with us who just put something through the cart. There's always an interaction, and so I think that we've really, really secured some good customers for life, which was very unexpected, really, at the beginning of everything.
And Alex, what about you? What have you been surprised by?
I suppose the biggest thing really is the sense of community spirit that has. I mean, I sort of always knew that we had it in us somewhere, but I'm originally from London, so I found it quite strange when I came to the Northwest, and people spoke to you in the street and things. I thought that was quite extraordinary. I wasn't quite sure what's going on, but now I find that there is a real sense of sort of community spirit, and that isn't just necessarily local. It's kind of a national thing and goes beyond that, and also that sense of community within our industry or within retail, and these circles kind of go further. And I think there was a lot of sort of trepidation and fear going into this. And actually, I know that still exists within certain bands of the community, and that's probably within age groups and everything else. But for those of us who are sort of still trying to, I don't know, struggle on through whatever this new normal looks like, I think everyone's kind of pulling together, and we all seem to want to try and help each other out to get through it. And I think, you know, on a micro level, like, our team has gelled better than it's ever has. You know, our local communities gel more, and our kind of industry are all pulling in one direction. I think that's brilliant. I think to come out of a pandemic and a sort of natural disaster, as it were, and all sort of feel closer than you did before is amazing.
Another positive, I think, is that Alex has got really, really good at gift wrapping. Which is definitely something that he didn't do before.
So true. These sleeves have been rolled up more times than I care to remember.
And Ben, I guess you can have the final answer on that one as well.
Actually, I've been very much like Alex. I've been in dispatch. Me and the FD have been in dispatch quite regularly. It's great, and that comes back to team spirit. You know, you were talking about this earlier, Alex, and everybody kind of job sharing, getting to know each other's tasks a little bit better. I normally call it job stretch. If you put someone in one place and you ask them to do something else, sometimes they go, that's not in my employment contract. But now all of a sudden there's a small team, you don't get any of that, and everybody wants to help everybody. Sure, there's emotional days, and some people get very emotional. I know that some people have had issues at home, maybe they're with someone from the NHS, or maybe they know someone who's not well. And maybe they wonder why they're being asked to come to work when everybody else can sit on their backside and earn 80%. And I do get that. It's a very emotional time. But even though, well, put those emotions aside for a second, I think everybody in this building has probably got to know each other an awful lot better and start to play as a real team, whereas maybe we were only 60% a team before. I feel like we're up 40% in terms of teamwork.
Brilliant. Well, that's a positive note to end us on, and I think we're pretty much almost out of time, so I just wanted to thank all the panelists and thank everybody for joining us. We've got another webinar happening on the 10th of June, so check our website for details of that one, but thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Great to see you all.